everyone. So this week's portion is called Emor. And the word Emor in Hebrew means to speak. But we know that there is a different word also in Hebrew that means to speak, and it is Vaidaber. So we've learned in different places in the Bible that when the word Emor is used, it's the soft approach. It's not a commandment. So when the Creator says Emor el Kohanim, tell the high priests or tell the priests, it's to remind Moses that this is not just a regular conversation or not just a regular commandment, but it's with gentleness, it's with mercy. So what does this mean for us? Everything we do in life has to do with communication with others. So when we break down communication, and if we go by the dictionary of what does communication really mean, communication is giving, receiving, and exchanging ideas, information, messages through media, through conversations, through information. But there's a give and take. There's a giving and receiving of expressing, ideas or emotions. So what does communication really require? Communication requires listening and then communicating and getting the other party to listen to you, right? So from here we learn that communication without a listener is not communication. So going back to our portion, Emor. You can do Emor, which is a soft communication, but if there's no Kohanim, the Emor doesn't exist. So now, what is Kohanim? What will make people listen? The first thing that I learned is that the Creator is teaching us here communication based on Emor. And if you do Medaber, Vaidaber, that's only on the condition, and let me just remind you, Vaidaber is kind of more of a commandment, of a stronger way of saying something. But that's only if the person is willing to take that commandment or that rougher suggestion from you. But if you talk to people and want them to do what you say, you need to bring yourself to a place of Emor. And what is Emor? Emor is when we speak equally with them, when we talk to them on their level. So how do we do that? First, the receiver has to be a Kohen. Going back to the Kohen. So what is a Kohen? A Kohen is a person who has the innate quality of giving within them. If a person you talk to is not a giver, then you have to use Vaidaber. Then you have to use the commandment. Then you have to use a kind of a stronger approach. But if the person is a giver, then you can do Emor. Now let's jump into the portion again where it talks about communication. Because what makes a Kohen? Or can you say what makes a listener a good listener? So here you can see that the Kohen has many restrictions on himself. What does this mean? If you want to be a great listener, you have to stop thinking about the end process. And this is where we sometimes get mixed up. We think we're listening, but we want to get to the point, especially if we're on the listener side, we're not on the talker side. Sometimes it's not so interesting. We just want to get to the point because most people that are talking, when we communicate in the beginning, when we start a conversation, we don't necessarily know where we're taking it. And a lot of people that are talking to you don't necessarily know where they're taking the conversation. And they don't necessarily know the final destination, but they want to get there and they don't know how. So what has to happen is that the listener has to help the talker because it takes two to have a conversation. And when we listen, how do we know we're actually listening? We have to be active listeners. We need to ask questions, but asking questions that we really want to hear the answer. Not that we ask questions because we think we understand, but actually to ask questions because we don't understand. So now let's look at the portion from this setting. The first two big sections of the portion are talking about the Kohen and how he needs to behave. And that's why it was Emor, because it was for the Kohen. It was a less strong approach, a merciful approach. But then you have the word Vaidaber when it speaks about the sacrifices. And why does it say Vaidaber, which is a commandment? Because here it's talking about laws of sacrifices. So it doesn't matter if you're in a good mood or if you're in a bad mood. You have to do it because it's a law. You know, a lot of people these days, especially those who keep kosher or come to Shabbat or pray, they wake up in the morning, oh, you know, I don't feel like doing this today, or I don't feel like praying today, or I don't feel like going to Shabbat today, or I don't feel like keeping kosher today. In life, the way that we communicate with the Creator can't be like however we want it to be. For example, there's shacharit prayer in the morning. There's mincha prayer in the afternoon. There's a window. And here it's vayidaber because it's a commandment. Why? Because a person can't just sit there and say, well, I didn't connect well. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel this Shabbat. No one asked you. It's the channel of connecting. It's like a telephone system. You pick up the phone and you dial the Creator. You have shacharit, you have mincha, you have arvit, you have Shabbat, you have holidays. Now, all of a sudden, there's a twist in the portion, and the rest of the portion talks about all the holidays. What's the idea? Why all the holidays? Like I said, it's a telephone system. What does it do? The Creator is on one side, and we're on the other. So what do you want to talk to him about? You have money problems? Rosh Hashanah. How long are you going to live? Rosh Hashanah. My life isn't fun. Passover. I want to be more in shape, and I want to learn more Torah. Shavuot. I want to think big. Sukkot. I want to feel free. I don't want to be part of any addictions. I want to have my freedom. That's Shabbat. That's not a holiday. That we have every Shabbat. So at least what I learned from this portion is a couple of things. First of all, communication. It is so important these days to be a listener, not just a talker. Communication is when you have two sides. And sometimes when you listen, you're actually helping the person who's trying to communicate with you get to their end process. So be active listeners. And the difference between Emor and Vayidaber is to be like the Kohen. Today we don't have the tabernacle. We don't need the high priests. So what is a Kohen? A Kohen is someone who is always in the consciousness of giving. And if a person is always in the consciousness of giving, of course there will be Emor. Of course there will be Emor because he's already in the consciousness of giving. Emor is soft. It's suggestions. Because when a person is in a mode of giving, they will listen automatically. They will be good listeners because they'll want to help the other person get to where he wants to be. And the last thing is the beautiful, beautiful tools that the Creator gave us to connect to him. If it's Shabbat, if it's the holidays, every single thing in our life that we need help with is there. Thursday night is Lag BaOmer. And we just learned today that you can light 19 candles for 19 different righteous people, and you can ask for help. And we're going to be here teaching on Facebook and teaching on Zoom and connecting all night to the power of Rabbi Shimon. Because why? Because I need help. I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure you need help. But that was the system, the telephone system that has been set up for us so that we can connect. We can connect to the Creator and we can connect to the righteous souls that were here before us. Thank you.